screen there. Bam, there we go. We're in business. We're professionals here. We're professionals here. All right. Oh, so in case y'all just tuned in or you didn't read the title when you came in the door, right today we have a special guest. Daniel Kibblesmith. Some of y'all probably, I would actually be shocked. Some of y'all don't know who Daniel is, but I'll give a little brief introduction.
I love hearing that. That sounds great. I love the idea that I'm very famous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I knew who you were, but I mean, I always have to remind myself that, yeah, hey, I look for these things.
You're keyed in. You're in the mix.
Yeah, exactly. I am actually. I would even dare say I'm terminally dialed in. But that's okay. That's what I'm here for. But no, for those who don't know, Daniel is a writer, not just of the what your parents or grandparents might call the funny books, but also also a writer for the screen. You are a 5-time nominated writer for The Late Show.
Correct.
Colbert.
I don't work there currently, but
not currently, but yeah,
for a long time, yeah.
But still, like you that is that's on your resume. And you also were a writer for Netflix's Inside Job. You also wrote comics, like Black Panther versus Deadpool, the Loki, Loki series, and you've also, I think, you've written for Bloodshot too. I think at one point or another.
Bloodshot was my first job. Yeah. My first professional comics job was Bloodshot. Oh. Yeah. Yep.
Well, there we go. Hey, well, we're gonna put some respect on that. We're gonna put some respect on that. But yeah, and you've written tons of other things, but like, today what we're here to talk about is you're going to be writing the next Darkwing Duck comic. So I think it's safe to say, yeah. Can we say, we can say the thing? I think chat, we can say the thing. Let's get dangerous. So
I love opening. Get it out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way. The sooner you say the thing, the less you got to worry about them asking for it. Yeah.
Well, and the theme song is like low key playing in everybody's head as soon as you say the phrase "Darkwing Duck." It just has that perfect rhythm to it that's like burned into the brain of anybody approximately my age. So
yeah, same. Well, so I guess let's talk about that familiarity just right quick, because that's something that I've been, and I was literally just saying before you jumped in, but one of the things I've always appreciated about I would say probably the last last couple of years at the very least of Dynamite is, that leaning in to some of those like some of those older IPs, taking these comics that are, I mean, obviously, old heads in the room, we're probably the only ones that'll remember this stuff, but also they're comics that can also be geared towards children who may not be familiar with those properties. So I always appreciate that the Dynamite's doing that. But like, what was your, I guess, what's your familiarity with Darkwing Duck?
I mean, probably the same as a lot of fans. I grew up with it. I remember it debuting, and what a huge deal that was. This is very much like the VHS era. Like, we don't have cable. There's like 3 channels. We've got all the Disney movies in those like big clamshell VHS boxes, and like the Disney sing-along tapes. So like, we're very much like a Disney house. I've got 3 younger sisters. We're very much like a Disney house. And Darkwing Duck, I want to say dropped like a little later in the Disney Afternoon pantheon. But when the Disney Afternoon shows started coming out, it was like kind of like a huge deal. Like, to a kid, it felt like news that there were going to be these like, there was always Saturday morning cartoons when I was growing up, but there were going to be these weekday afternoon cartoons of like recognizable characters that were of quality. And they weren't just like, what I associated with Disney, at that time, which was like a lot of, princesses and love stories and, kind of softer, like Bambi, like, projects. that there were going to be like action cartoons, like action comedy, superhero. You know, Tailspin is very much sort of like World War II dogfight kind of Indiana Jones flavored, you know, cartoon. Gummy Bears is like a very weird property that I'm a little bit obsessed with.
Yeah, that's the one I'm waiting on. That's the Dynamite comic I am actually holding out for.
I'm sure it's going to happen, and I would come back, you know, if they asked.
Okay, so Nick,
But
I know Nick Barucci. I know sometimes Nick likes to hang out in the chat, like and be like a silent assassin. I know you're listening. You got Daniel's number. Call him.
The red telephone emoji. That was just the red telephone emoji. So you know, Darkwing Duck was huge because I had grown up, you know, obviously like I'd seen like the Ruby Spears Superman cartoon and like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and I always thought superheroes were a little too. I was like a really soft kid, like a really gentle little baby, and I loved like Muppet Babies and that kind of stuff. So when Darkwing Duck came out, it was really like my bridge from like, oh, and DuckTales. Obviously, I was a huge DuckTales kid. So DuckTales in particular, when Darkwing Duck came out, it was like my bridge to go from sort of like comedy to adventure to like full on, you know, the visual and conceptual language of superhero storytelling. Like all of the tropes and genre conventions that, you know, are also present in like Batman the Animated Series, which is a show that I then also, you know, became obsessed with. So Darkwing Duck in a lot of ways really like taught me what superhero stories are by using comedy and slapstick and, you know, classic Disney funny ducks to sort of, you know, bring me in as a really young child and say like, this is for you. Like you don't have to be intimidated by this.
Right. Well, man, you kind of took me down the the old memory lane there for a minute. I remember rushing home from school. Like I can't miss Chip and Dale. I can't miss DuckTales.
It's true. I mean, they made it. They really, you know, told you it was an event, and I think, you know, for little kids, like largely lived up to it. And yeah, the thing I always say about Darkwing Duck is it's all anybody was talking about on the playground. It's all anybody was talking about on the playground the next day. And if you missed one, it was gone forever.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny you said that. I remember as a kid, because you're on the playground, and kids talk. You know, it was the playground was our water cooler. Back then.
Yeah, it was kind of like Twitter. You know,
it was there was no moderation except for like maybe like the school teacher that may or may not be paying attention to what's going on.
Right. I think they like still allowed to smoke, probably.
Right. Drinking coffee, smoking like a pack a day. Just that whole vibe. But I remember though. I remember being like, yeah, oh dude, did you see that? Did you see Darkwing Duck? Oh man, did you do the theme song? Oh my God, like it's so great. It was awesome, and it was like just how like wild the things that the DW would say, as he's doing like his little introductions and whatnot. It was awesome. It was something really awesome, and also like those old like classic. It was like he had this classic pulp hero, but like also in a kid's cartoon where it's like, okay, you can take a little bit of the pulp out. So it's not exactly no pulp orange juice, but
no,
it's
that's a great analogy. Yeah,
you're right.
It's some pulp.
It's a little just a little bit, little teensy weensy bit. But like for we had what I think was just this past year. We had the previous Darkwing Duck series, which kind of leaned a little bit more into the kind of the Justice Ducks and a lot of the kind of greater world Darkwing Duck stuff. So like and this one being a relaunch of the series, like can you tell us anything about what you're planning to bring to Darkwing Duck in this new series?
Yeah, absolutely. The short answer is just back to basics. Like when I got the gig, and I had already read a lot of Darkwing Duck comics just because I was a fan of the character. But when I got the gig, I went back and read every Darkwing Duck comic I could find, which is not easy because,
Yeah.
you know, the rights did change hands and things kind of drift in and out of print. I had to get a couple things from interlibrary loan,
Hmm.
which I highly recommend. I used to work at a library, and when I found out that you could get books from like library systems that were not your own library
Hmm.
system, I was like, this is the greatest gift, and nobody uses it.
I will second that. The library is low key out here, like saving a lot of people, like having to dig and hunt and like go into like the darkest corners of eBay to try and find stuff that is
Yeah,
not out there anymore.
no joke. Yeah, you're totally correct. They're like quietly keeping civilization together. So I read everything, and what I found was that, like, I think this makes a lot of sense. Most writers' instinct when making a Darkwing Duck comic is to treat it like a comic book universe. That means like expanding on it. That means telling like multi-part stories, and really taking advantage of what like the medium of comics and the genre of superhero comics can offer a character like Darkwing Duck. It's like, hey, now we can tell a story that's like longer than 30 minutes in theory.
Mhm.
You know, now we can bring in like a bunch of new characters. You know, we can do like time jumps and like we can do changes in the status quo. You know, like you can come in and be like, oh, Saint Canard is like kind of different because like years have
Mhm.
passed. You know, like things like that. So that's all the stuff that I would have done. You know,
Right.
so I'm really glad that I read it first. So it's like,
Mm.
okay, so what we were going to do with our series then is we're just going to go like hard opposite, back to basics. Every issue of this is going to feel like a new or lost episode of Darkwing Duck.
Mhm.
Every issue of this is going to feel like a 30-minute episode of Darkwing Duck, the show, where he fights a different classic villain, beginning, middle, and end. And you know
Mhm.
what? Let's assume that this is the VHS era. If you miss issue 2, you can pick up issue 3, and you're not going to have missed anything. It's a brand new story every month.
Mhm.
One of the things that I like about doing that is, you know, one, I also work in television animation, so it's really fun to sort of approach this like as though I was trying to write for the Darkwing Duck TV show. And two, I really want to share this comic with my kid. And I
Mhm.
think that even though serialized comics like, you know, really complicated X-Men continuity did get me into comics,
Mhm.
I think that for really young kids, it's also probably more satisfying to be able to have a complete story that you can follow and understand. And then next month, you get a brand new story. And actually, I don't think I've revealed this yet, but at the end of every issue, we're doing sort of like a "Who's That Pokemon" style silhouette, where
Okay.
you have to guess who the
Mhm.
next villain is going to be. And obviously, everybody over 35 is going to
Right.
know from the silhouette.
You can't get
But
bush root past me.
right, exactly. But I want that feeling, you know, that I had watching shows like Darkwing, shows like Batman the Animated Series, shows like The Tick, where I was
Mhm.
like, oh, who's the bad guy gonna be next week? Like, oh,
Mhm.
Batman 66, you know, I used to watch those in syndication,
Oh yeah.
and the whole point of that show was like, who will it be next time?
Mhm.
So I wanted to do a Darkwing Duck comic that felt like those aspects of watching the original show.
And I think that's actually a great idea to do because I mean, yeah, when you think about the serialized nature of of comics, yeah, it's real easy to like fall behind. It's real easy to like yeah, if you miss like I feel like nowadays comics have gotten a lot better about that. But like back in the day, like yeah, if you were reading Superman or you're reading Wonder Woman, you're reading X-Men, you're reading any of those like those main like big two comics. Yeah, if you skipped an issue, you missed an issue, like that was the difference between you fully understanding what was going on and not having a damn clue.
Yeah.
where you are,
Yeah.
where you're at in the story.
And you just hit
Um,
the ground running. You just like
yeah.
you catch up, and you don't worry about it too much. And like I think nowadays, it's a lot easier because
Mhm.
now these are seen as like archives. Like now there's
Right.
like apps and prestige paperback re-releases, and that now there is this idea that it's a completist medium. But yeah, I mean, like airborne television, like at the time, comics were a disposable medium for kids, and you just get the one that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Maybe a buddy has an older one, that you can borrow, or that,
Mhm.
your old brother like put it on VHS or something like that. But like it is a lot, yeah, it is a lot of like grabbing what you can, from the conveyor belt sushi, and if you miss it,
I
gone.
like that. I like that. Well, so I think that go when I think back on Darkwing Duck, and looking at you're talking about the Rogues Gallery, which it's kind of, man, it's actually crazy to me that it's not talked about more. You talk about characters that have like iconic rogues galleries. People always think about, oh, Batman, Spider Man. Everybody knows who their villains are. But it's kind of funny. Yeah, if you were a kid back then, you knew. Like you knew who all the, like you knew who all of DW's enemies were. You knew who all his allies were. Like and they all kind of stood out, like stuck out on their own, and they all had very distinct personalities and ways of communicating. But and this is something that um I stumbled into when talking with Amanda Dybert, the previous writer, and she was telling me about how there were certain characters that you kind of had to like there was this different, like it was like way different vibes where characters like Liquidator, who's like a walking television ad.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most obvious because
Yeah.
he's like so set in
Yeah.
his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's a voice for sure.
yeah. Like was there any of that for you, like with obviously Liquidator, but like finding that voice for any of the villains?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you about the Rogues Gallery. This
Mm.
has come up in every conversation that I've had, like on mic, like off mic, about doing Darkwing Duck. Is everybody's like, "Hey, I haven't thought about it in a while, but he has one of the best Rogues Galleries in all of superhero fiction." Like up
Mhm.
there with like anything in comic books.
Yes.
Batman, Spider-Man, Flash,
Mhm.
Darkwing Duck. Like, and I think you're right. I think part of that is that the personalities are so distinct. Like the designs, obviously, like the color palettes in play, the silhouettes, like we were talking about literally,
Mhm.
are all they're all so strong and iconic. But then those personalities are also really different from each other. And when I was a kid and they did the Fearsome Five team up, that's when I think I really realized the extent to which like these are really like crystalline creations, and no one is especially similar to any other. Even when you get into like the less frequently used villains,
Mhm.
they're all sort of like shockingly unique. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm thrilled to do. It's one of the fun things about doing one villain per issue, or in a couple of cases, like one villain team up per issue,
Mhm.
like a team up that we've never seen before.
Mm.
Is to really throw myself in those voices. But I mean, in that regard, it's not that different than other comics writing
Mhm.
projects. Like you mentioned, I did a mini series, Black Panther versus Deadpool.
Mhm.
Like when you're a comics fan, as all comic writers start out, you
Yeah.
do internalize those voices so much. So when I sat down to a blank piece of paper, I was like, I always compare it to putting two bugs in a jar. Like I know exactly what Deadpool is going to do. I know exactly what Black Panther is going to do in
Mhm.
response. I know that if you put like a gun on the table, I know what they'll both do. If you put a bag of money on the table, I know what they'll both do.
Mhm.
So the Darkwing villains, it's the same deal. They're so consistent, and that consistency is a gift to future writers because it lets you start with this baseline of audience expectation and then dial it up, dial it down, subvert it, have them behave in character, have them behave out of character, for story purposes.
Mhm.
It's one of the things I like about doing famous characters is
Mhm.
you always kind of it's very hard to get writer's block because you kind of always know what they're going to do.
Right. Actually, and that's something I used to in the days of yore before I decided to, I guess, have the weirdest, I won't say weirdest, but the strangest career choice ever. Uh,
Media empire. They're
yeah,
called
just
media
yeah,
empires.
just like which I'll tell anyone right now, you have to be just a little bit. Not say you have to be all the way. You have to be just a little bit insane to even want to attempt that. So which
Yeah,
I,
maybe.
just a teensy weensy bit. Yeah, you gotta because it's just it's an exercise in just what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
But
You talk to yourself a lot. My wife is a
yeah,
writer too, and you end up talking to yourself a lot.
yes, well, because you have to like you have to you have to you have to get that stuff out, to really like to channel it. And I remember I used to think like that used to be like one of the things I used to always wonder is like, man, I wonder how like is it tougher to write something that you like that like really really well because like there's that, oh well, hey, well what do I what if like what if I don't nail it, or like something that you're completely unfamiliar with and you have to like learn. So like when you say it like that's like it's kind of changed my opinion on the whole, or at least kind of moved me in a different direction on that whole thing, because like like when you think about like when I like you say Darkwing Duck, I immediately hear the voice in my head. And I know that you already have like obviously a lot of experience. Duh, you're a writer. You've been writing a lot of stuff. But like I remember you had done Quantum and Woody, and I was like, dude, I was like, yeah, it's like Quantum and Woody never left.
Yeah,
And like
it's a good
the Black
comparison.
Panther
Yeah.
versus Deadpool, I was like, yep, these characters are acting exactly the way I would largely expect them to.
That's
Mhm,
hugely flattering. Yeah, because
mhm,
I definitely like Quantum and Woody is a great example where I'd read
mhm,
some Quantum and Woody, but
mhm,
to write it, I then read all of the Quantum and Woody. And like with Valiant at that time, I was very lucky that I could do that. That there wasn't such a quantity of it that it was impossible. That the Priest and Bright comics were
mhm,
still largely circulating in paperbacks. Some of them I just found in used bookstores. I
mhm.
just went to the comic section and there they were. So yeah, I'm a big researcher. I like doing the homework. I know that people care about this stuff, and I want it to show that I know that they care about this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm not familiar with something, I always do like a crazy crash course. If I am familiar with something, I always do like, rewatch,
Mhm,
revisit, reread, just to be like, to fully immerse myself
mhm.
in that voice so that it becomes secondhand when I need to recreate it.
Right. Well, and we talked earlier about how obviously Darkwing Duck is a kind of an homage to a lot of those stories of yesteryear, a lot of the pulp era stuff like the Shadow, and obviously like characters like Batman are also in there as well, and there's a lot more of the more modern comic stuff in there, of course. But that show in and of itself, and I think it was not really just Darkwing Duck, but a lot of those Disney Toon shows. A lot of times, because you could tell the writers, of those shows, they're people. They watch television, they watch movies, they read books. They have interests outside of the thing that they're doing at that precise moment. So like a lot of times you would see lots of like inspirations, like things that like as I go back, like as a kid I didn't really recognize, but like as an adult I go back and watch like, oh, this episode is totally like it's almost like, you know, they're doing a throwback to, like, you know, the original Ocean's 11, or, you know, or, oh,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
there's
this
a lot of
episode.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so and I know that, like, as a writer, you know, sometimes, you know, there's just those things that just, like, you're like, oh man, it'd be really cool. What if we could take this and, like, flip it on its head or do this with it? Was there like, were there any, like, inspirations? Well, obviously without giving anything away, you know, for the book itself,
Yeah,
but like,
I don't want to spoil it.
yeah.
Here's what I'll say. I was on the train. I live in Los Angeles. So I was on the train to San Diego for Comic-Con last year, and I was sitting with some other animation people, and they were talking about sort of Saturday morning cartoon animation tropes. How,
Mm.
like, when you're a kid, you can see the writers being like, well, you know, like, maybe there's an episode where they shrink, or maybe there's an episode where they go into cyberspace,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm just sitting there being like, oh man, I think that's like, I feel very called out right now. Like, I think that's like issue. Are they describing issue 4 and issue 5? Like, right? So,
Well,
like,
it's like those
there's
hijinks.
going to be things like that, you know.
Yeah.
There's going to be like expectations that what I'm hoping is that it doesn't come off as lazy. What I'm hoping
Mm.
is that it comes off as like this real loving homage to and understanding of the tone and the genre that, you know, I've been granted stewardship of. But at the same time, it's like I do want to surprise people.
Right.
I do want to show people things, not just that they've missed, but that they've never seen before. So whenever I'm writing like any IP, you know, if I'm writing like Loki or Spider-Man or something, I do think a lot about the contract with the audience and how there is a degree of giving the people what they want.
Hmm.
But, you know, you also do have to piss off the audience a little bit. You have to surprise the audience. You have to make them cry because, you know, you also are trying to give them what they need and like these
Hmm.
really memorable moments so that, you know, not everything feels like comfort food. Something is, you know, something you remember for the rest of your life. And maybe you think you hate that writer now, you know, maybe maybe you need to go on social media and say like, this is the worst thing that they've ever done. But I think some portion of the audience is like responding to the fact that they've been moved, you know.
Right.
There are always the people who are genuinely mad. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't think this should have been handled in this way.
Mm.
But I do think there's a portion of the audience that are mad that it kind of worked on them.
Yeah. You made me believe.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
Well, it reminds me, like, you know, it's kind of like wrestling for me. Like, I've always known since I was a little kid. I guess I was always a smart. Not always. I won't say always, but like that. I was a smart fan a lot sooner than probably most people were, and I remember lots of times where I watch wrestling. I'm like, I know it's all predetermined. I know they're not really like beating each other's asses or anything like that in the ring. I mean, I know mistakes do happen, but but there have been times where I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't tell where the story begins and the reality. You know, and I try my best when I talk about comics on this channel that I always try and differentiate my feelings about the story versus how the story is written. Like I always, because a lot of times if I say anything, people just take that as like, oh, see, he hates this thing. No, it's like I always try and say like, oh, you know, when this, like, let's say, yeah, we'll just use Superman as an example. You know, oh, okay, well, man, Superman just flew off, and you know, this little kid just sitting there holding a balloon, and the balloon gets let go and he goes and grabs the balloon, but the balloon pops because he just flew just so fast trying to bring it back to the little kid. I'm like, oh, Superman would, he wouldn't, oh my God, he would never do this sort of thing. Yeah. Like it's a, like,
he wouldn't fail.
He wouldn't fail. But the thing is, I always tell people, let the writer cook, because sometimes the thing that, that you're doing, it could be just something that's, maybe you're building towards something that I, as the person reading the comic, have no idea where you're going. And I like to, I'd like to make sure people are aware that sometimes when things happen in a story, it's not because, the person, doesn't understand the characters. Because sometimes maybe you might be trying to deconstruct the character, or maybe put the character in an uncomfortable position, because as a story, it's not, it's I don't know, I find it very difficult to get invested when the character, everything comes easy. And you have to make, like, and especially for stuff that, like, has been around for a long time, and you're trying to take a character to a different place. And that's not expected. So I always try and tell people, like, let's let them cook. Let them cook.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's especially in wrestling is a great comparison, because it's serialized storytelling made of parts. So all that we focus on is the latest part. That's by design. That's okay. These come out in chapters. So obviously we're going to have big reactions to the chapters.
You're right.
I just think that, like you're saying, keeping in mind that this might be going somewhere. I think it's important. And I also think that, when I'm reading, I try to remember that surrendering is important, that, I'm not the one driving the bus. I am trusting somebody to take me on a journey where I will have experiences. My wife and some of our friends will read the Wikipedia entries for horror movies before they go to see if they sound too scary.
Right.
To shave off the jump scares, to shave off the edges, so they know what's coming. I think that, horror movies, obviously, but I kind of think, like all fiction, sort of the entire point is that you don't know. And then give a chance, decide if it has failed, or decide if it is for you. But what's great about comic books is that someone else will come next, like eventually. If you're not happy with what's happening to Superman, give it 8 months. There's going to be another crack at it.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not mad that people have strong feelings. I think that the strong feelings are kind of what keeps the lights on around here.
Yeah.
But I want people to have a good time.
Right. And I think that's why I always want to try and get across to people is, like, I've never spoken to or ever known anyone in any creative field who made something, at least I don't think I ever have, who made something with the express purpose of not entertaining anyone.
Yeah.
Like that's I mean, has it ever happened? I'm sure it probably has.
I mean, certainly in film, maybe like fine arts, I don't think like in a pop medium where it's like the corporate masters really do want the customers to keep coming every month.
Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to write this comic, and I'm going to write it so it sucks.
Right.
Like no one is saying that.
There's no agenda to do a bad job on purpose. In this particular strata of the No, everybody's coming to it as like, I love this. I have something to say about it. I have a take. I hope my take resonates. Sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes it does, but just for like a very small number of people. you know, speaking as somebody who has had things that were canceled but got a lot of positive feedback on, that is absolutely worth it.
Mhm.
To be able to, you know, having a cult hit is bittersweet, but like it's a good feeling when you talk to folks about it.
Yeah. Well, because it lets you know that at least, at least you knew you had achieved, the goal that you were looking for, that people found the thing that you did and that it resonated with them. Um,
Connection made. That's it.
right. I think that at the end of the day, I think that's, what every, storyteller kind of wants is, to have that. But I will definitely say, I think that, in fandoms and when they're respectful, I think, the key there is not to be assholes. I can literally tell people all the
It's
time.
hard. It's
Yeah.
hard, you know, 'cause we all have a megaphone now, and
Right.
we feel, you know, we feel the way we feel. So why wouldn't you?
Mm.
Why wouldn't you say it?
Yeah, we're all Siskel
But
and Ebert. Like everybody could be Siskel and Ebert now, or Ebert and
yeah,
Roper, however you want to,
yeah.
or whatever. But
But I think if I, you know, if I
Mhm.
say it out, if I say it out loud in this
Mhm.
way, the Yelpification of
Mhm.
media, like that sounds bad.
Yes.
So,
As
so
a
clearly there's some kind of fine line here.
right, as a guy who is, I sometimes just say wild and random stuff on the internet, sometimes without even thinking about what it is I'm saying. So I totally get how people mess up. There have been times I have criticized stuff and maybe sounded a little bit too spicy, and then going back and be like, all right, look, guys, calm down, y'all.
Yeah,
I
I
was
had
just
just read it.
I just it was fresh in my head. I had a knee jerk reaction. Look. Even real pimps mess up sometimes. But
That's your next T-shirts.
yeah, there you go. That's I'm gonna write that down. Hold on, let's
Mhm.
but no, but no. One thing, and I wanted to kind of open the floor up a little bit to some of the audiences watching, just to get some questions in here. Um, and I don't really know how much you can say about any of these, but
Find out.
we'll ask him anyway. Yeah, well, like this is like this is my Bill O'Reilly moment. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Glad you swore because I didn't know if I was supposed to.
No, you can't. You can say whatever you want. I don't care. I try not to sometimes, but it's just like,
Sure.
screw it. I don't give a care.
That's slapping E on the face.
What was the FCC gonna do? Shut me down? They can't shut me down. Oh, maybe they can. I don't know. But but no. First question is, let's pull this up here. Bam. We got one here from Otaku Jive. Says, by the way, I love that screen name. How do you feel about the reboot of the DuckTales version of Darkwing Duck?
This is a short answer. It's great.
Mhm.
When it happened, I didn't see all of DuckTales.
Mhm.
I caught them when I could, but you know, obviously, I made a point to watch that one, and it was well before, you know, anybody had talked to me about doing a Darkwing Duck project. It's great. It's everything that I hoped the DuckTales reboot could and would do. And it felt like such a great approach and so clearly like a potential backdoor pilot. I'm sorry that it didn't immediately lead to more Darkwing Duck. I'm sorry there's not more DuckTales.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a sad day because I do remember that. I do remember when that reboot had happened, and I thought I thought they did a fantastic job. I mean, just considering what you had to live up to versus what we ultimately got. I thought they did a great job. I thought that I was actually shocked. I was actually shocked when it I guess when I forget how many seasons it got before, but when it got taken down. But yeah, I thought that, oh man, I was like, this is gonna be something special. I was like, this is how you get kids, this generation, into DuckTales. And yeah.
Yeah.
here we
make
are.
something very high quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. The whole enterprise, just
Mhm.
I'm a fan. I got to make a point to kind of go back and complete, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I like it was one of those I kind of watched in passing, like yeah, because we have kids. That's just kind of what happens. Everything just kind of happens. I've probably seen an untold number of Bluey episodes. Could not tell you
Oh
what
yeah,
happens
I
in all
just
of them.
assume every time I talk to a parent that eventually we'll mention Bluey.
Yeah. Oh no, it's like oh so, Bluey, right? Like yeah, it's yeah, yep. They got me. Yeah, I'm 2 years sober off of off of Bluey. I got my little pin.
I mean, man, I'm still waking up in the gutter.
I'm sorry.
Ah, it's okay.
Oh,
It's very pleasant.
oh, I have to laugh at life sometimes, so that's what it feels like. But we got another one here from Same Time Toys. This I gotta run, but here's my question for later. Are you allowed to use other Disney characters like Gizmo Duck and the others? They may or may not come up later, guys. Replay Squad 100. Hey, thank you for that. So I
I
guess
love the
yeah.
honesty.
Oh yeah.
The short answer is I probably won't.
Okay.
I'm not 100% positive if I am permitted to. I know that there's also a Justice Ducks
Mhm.
project that I'm just really looking forward to as a fan. So given that, this is a new #1 and like such a back to basics approach, like for me, it's just exciting to see Megavolt. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a lot of drip, 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 drip
Mm.
before I throw the kitchen sink away.
It's kind of funny that it's kind of funny you say it too, because that was actually something that when the solicits and everything had come out, the solicits and everything had come out for the book, and I actually want to pull this up because this is I think that it's something that should be seen. But yeah, you got like right here. We've
Yeah,
got
man.
yeah, like that. This is. I just want to say this, y'all can see it in all its glory, but this is something that's pretty damn awesome. I think it's something I
Yeah.
think is actually pretty damn cool. You get to see some of those classic characters. It just I don't know. There's something about it that it just seems really cool. Also, seeing not to say that we haven't we haven't seen these characters in 5 ever. I mean, we have, but I mean, this is cool to just know like, oh man, I'm gonna get to see a story with Megavolt. I think I think I saw somewhere in one of the solicits that we might get a little bush root up in us.
I would not be shocked.
just
I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. We're
Mhm.
approaching it from a lot of different like creative facets. But at the end of the day, it's like these are properties that people love. If you're gonna do it, do it.
Yes.
So that's how I feel about going into like most IP projects. Whether it's big two,
Mhm.
whether it's I've done Rick and Morty comics.
Mhm.
I think that it's like I know what I like about this stuff. I want to bring it to the table in a new and exciting way.
I love to see it. Like I said, it's really cool. And I first off, I just want to say that because I like to give everybody an opportunity to because obviously you're doing this comic, we're talking about it. Duh, y'all know you should go check the thing out. I think this is going to be this next month. I believe is it the 12th?
I believe it's February 12th.
Yeah,
But you know
okay.
what? Doesn't matter. Call your local comic book shop now and ask for it. Doesn't matter what day it comes out. They'll call you when they have it in their hands.
Exactly. Hit up your friendly LCS and like I said, ask for the thing. Because if you don't ask for the thing, you don't get the thing. Sometimes. So I say do that. There's and I will also say too, Dynamite is all the one thing you can you can get variant covers of all different kinds, But I will definitely say Dynamite probably has hands down the best variant cover game. So if you want like one of the variants,
yeah, I mean, we
you know.
didn't even mention the one that's on screen right now, or the one that had been on screen a moment
Oh,
ago.
right here, yeah.
That's Mark Bagley. That's
Yes.
like Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man's Mark Bagley doing
Yes.
versus Megavolt. That's unreal to me.
That Spider-Man royalty is right there.
Like, certainly if you're my age, like probably, you know, on your Mount Rushmore of Spidey artists. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I tried to copy him. I tried to copy him. I didn't succeed, but I tried.
Oh no! I drew a lot of. It's like Mickey Mouse's ears, you know. When he's facing you, no nose, but when he turns this way, he's got the little trapezoid.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It's fantastic. Well, because it was, you know, Mark Bagley was actually and I was actually really happy I got to tell him this once, but I was like, you were literally like the reason I read Spider-Man comics for a long time. So I was like, oh my God, I was like, this art is so fantastic. I mean, yeah, the story's great too. Yeah. That's cool. But I mean, I just really love the way he draws Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah,
hands down my favorite Venom artist.
Yeah, I mean, those are. I think those are still the longest teeth, you know.
Yes.
Maybe Sam Keith at some point has a beat.
You know, I mean, yeah, you know, it's you know, Sam Keith is always going to Sam Keith. You know, it's always going to be a thing. You're not gonna beat Sam in that department.
Yeah, you're not going to out tooth Sam Keith, but that's a special occasion.
Oh yeah, but like I just really appreciate that. Like, yeah, the variant cover game is always on point, and I always love.
I believe it's the A cover. This is Brandon Stein who are doing our interiors, and
yes.
This is what the comic is going to look inside. I love their models for the characters. I think they're spot on. It reminds me of the DuckTales show where it's like this is clearly them, but it's like this is an era of them that we're entering. Ted and Ro are outstanding. I was a huge fan before we got to work together, and now it's just like seeing them. This is sort of a pun, I guess, but like stretch their wings.
Oh,
it's pretty unreal what they're doing. Everybody is working very hard on this.
I believe it. Well, and largely because like. I really just enjoyed that the you know, and it's kind of across the board with a lot of the things you know, that are, you know, kind of in the under the Disney umbrella at this time, like, is that when I look at them, I'm like, they look like the Thing. They look like the Thing, they read like the Thing.
Yeah.
It's the Thing. Yeah, it's I love to see it. I personally love to see it.
We're thinking hard, but we're not overthinking.
Right. Well, and that's man. What you would imagine, you know, I would imagine it's almost kind of like a tightrope of a thing to do, because like you want to try and get all the stuff that you want in there, but like you also want to try and, you know, have a tight operation. And I will definitely say, if for, you know, whether, you know, anyone, you know, here in the chat or you're anyone coming back and watching the VOD later, if you are the least bit a fan of the Darkwing Duck animated series or any of the old comics, you should probably check this out. I would highly advise you go check this out. There's a link in the pinned comment as well as in the description that'll take you right to the Dynamite website. If you do not have an LCS in your area, you can order direct from them. But otherwise, go to your LCS, ask them to put it in your pull box. Daniel, do you have anything else that you wanted to promote while you were here?
Geez Louise. I had some holiday comics come out, but it's 2025, so I guess I should stop talking about those.
Well, I mean, you can talk.
Here's what I'll say. Because you just mentioned, you know, we've talked a lot about growing up with this stuff and nostalgia, you know, the 90s and VHS tapes and old school fans and all that business. The one that is on the screen right now is a variant cover by Tad Stone, the creator of Darkwing Duck. The last thing I want to say about this is that we're getting variant covers from the guy, like the person who brought this in the world and made it all possible for fans like me to, you know, grow up with it, and also to get the opportunity to play in this world, you know, what, decades later, 30 years later. So if you are into this stuff, I don't know a harder way we could sell you than saying we got tagged.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like talking to him, like he's telling us like secrets and stuff. He's giving us advice.
It's like literally straight from the well. Like it's coming
Yeah, this
straight from the
is
well.
this is the real deal. We are taking this seriously. So if you like this stuff the way we like this stuff, let's make it, you know, let's make it a hit. Let's make as much of it as possible.
Hey, that's that's the type of stuff I like to see. I will just say too, I'm gonna give you some shameless plugs here myself. I actually put some links to you know, some of Daniel's other works. You should go check those out if you enjoyed any part of this conversation. I believe, if I remember correctly, I put links to your Black Panther versus Deadpool, your Bloodshot, as well as your Quantum and Woody.
Much appreciated. Yeah, the Valiant stuff. The Valiant stuff I'm really proud of, and you know, it was a long time ago. It doesn't come up that much, so
Well, I enjoyed them, so I was like, yeah, hey, let's just throw all of it in there. We're gonna throw all of it in there, and I also have links to you on social. So if y'all want to follow, Daniel, you wherever the places. By all means, please do so. It's free. You can go do that. And,
oh, there's a cost.
You know, well, yeah.
Social media is not
Yeah,
free.
yeah, I was say there is a social tax that you will have to pay. But
yeah, you'll feel it.
Yeah.
You'll feel the rings coming out of you like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Right. Oh, God. I love. You know what? That is actually about how. Yeah, that's social media in a nutshell. Honestly, yeah. There's a. If you get the Sonic rings knocked out of you, you know you were really on social media then. But I also for people that are on the Twitch side of things, you can also, there's little commands that I've put in there. I think if you do the exclamation mark Darkwing, should pull up a link to the Dynamite website. If you put in exclamation mark Kibble, it will bring up all of the social stuff we just talked about. And exclamation works, it will bring up all the books that I just talked about that you should go check out. And these also work on YouTube as well, but they're in the description. You don't have to do that. But that said, Daniel, thank you so much for your time, and just, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And I have very good feelings about this book, and yeah, I honestly, I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with it.
That means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. I think the vibes are correct. I think we're at the beginning of something really special. So yeah, thank you. This was a good one. I loved really getting into it.
All right. Well, hey, everyone, like I said, go do the thing, go click the links, go do all the stuff. I will be back tomorrow. We'll be talking with Tom Snagowski about the Herculoid. So make like click on the notification thingies with buttons. There's, I forget exactly where they are, but they're down there somewhere. Click the buttons, go do the stuff, and we will see you all the next go round. We out of here, and peace.